The mental process of a generational family home being condemned. When a generational family home is condemned, the loss is more than just physical. It's a dismantling of identity, memory, and legacy. The mental process of dealing with that condemnation is layered. First, a shock, then grief, followed by disorientation, and finally, a reluctant reconstruction of meaning. This isn't just about a structure falling apart, it's about the psychological unraveling of a space that once held permanence. Shock and denial. Initially, the news hits like a punch to the gut. The family might have known the house was in bad shape. Maybe the roof sagged, the foundation cracked, or the plumbing was rusted through, but the official notice still feels abrupt. There's disbelief. How could something that stood for decades, weathering storms, births, funerals, and holidays, be labeled uninhabitable? Many respond with denial, digging through past repairs and moments of resilience as if to argue with reality. The condemnation isn't just a practical notice, it's a declaration that something deeply personal is no longer valid. Grief and identity loss. Then comes the grief. A home is more than walls. It's where a family history is stored in layers. Photos, furniture, the scratch on the doorframe marking a child's height. Losing it feels like erasure. Family members may wrestle with guilt, especially the older generation, for not preserving it better. Others may feel angry that no one intervened earlier, or that circumstances, poverty, illness, neglect, led to this point. In this stage, the emotional weight is heavy. People often realize how much of their identity was tied to the home, to its smell, to the way sunlight hit the porch, to the stories told around its kitchen table. Disorientation and conflict. Once grief sets in, disorientation follows. Where do you go when the center of your family life disappears? For some, the loss fractures relationships. Siblings argue over what to save, what to throw away, who's responsible. There's often confusion about logistics, paperwork, city regulations, financial consequences. But beneath the surface is a deeper struggle, a loss of place in the world. The condemned home acted as an anchor. Without it, people may feel unmoored, both emotionally and physically. The past feels harder to access without a physical space to house it. Meaning-making and adaptation. Eventually, the mind begins to adapt. The loss is processed, not erased, and people start building new meanings. Maybe someone salvages wood from the home to build a table, or digitizes old photos found in a dusty drawer. Maybe the family gathers elsewhere, awkwardly at first, then more naturally. Stories about the house begin to solidify into family folklore, shared at reunions or passed to younger generations. While the home itself is gone, the process of remembering it becomes an act of resilience. The memory of place is internalized, carried forward, no longer tied to a decaying building. When the walls give out, the mental collapse that follows a condemned family home. A generational family home isn't just shelter, it's a container for memory, identity, and continuity. So when that home is condemned, officially declared unsafe and uninhabitable, the emotional and mental fallout is complex. It isn't just a loss of property, it's a rupture in the psyche, a quiet identity crisis masked as a bureaucratic procedure. The mental process that follows is not linear. It's a cycle of denial, grief, fragmentation, and eventually, fragile reconstruction. The weight of sudden finality. Condemnation often arrives in an envelope taped to a door or through a call from a city official. The tone is impersonal. The decision is administrative. But for the people who grew up within those walls, the moment is anything but neutral. There's a visceral dissonance between the sterile language of the notice, unsafe for habitation, and the life that pulsed inside the home for generations. The mind instinctively resists. It's just old, someone might say. We can fix it. But the truth is louder. The foundation has failed. The mold is invasive. The systems are corroded beyond repair. The place has reached the end of its physical life. And that finality crashes into the human need for permanence. This is where the mental detachment starts. People pull back emotionally as if trying to shield themselves from the implications. Some minimize. It's just a house. Others panic. What happens to the memories if the house goes? The mind doesn't know where to store this information. There was no space carved out for this kind of grief. Inherited burdens, unspoken guilt. Grief takes on a complicated form when the house has been in the family for generations. It isn't just about the building, it's about what it symbolized: stability, roots, sacrifice. Maybe a grandparent built it with their own hands. Maybe it was the first property a Black or immigrant family was allowed to buy in a restrictive neighborhood. Maybe it's the only place that ever felt like home. When the home is condemned, the loss echoes backwards. It feels like a betrayal of everyone who fought to keep it standing. That's where guilt creeps in. Adult children wonder if they should have stepped in earlier. Elders question their own neglect. Siblings disagree over what was done or not done. The condemnation becomes a mirror, reflecting unspoken family dynamics, regrets, and secrets. It's never just the house that's crumbling. It's trust, it's pride. It's the idea that someone, anyone, was in control. Disorientation and the collapse of a mental map. Losing a generational home disorients the psyche in subtle but profound ways. For many, the house was a fixed point on their mental map, a place that stayed constant as jobs changed, relationships failed, and cities shifted. It was the fallback, the where we'll go for Christmas, the background in childhood photos. When it's condemned, that reference point vanishes. People lose more than a structure. They lose a sense of where they come from. This disorientation often doesn't show up as dramatic emotion. It's quieter, a vague restlessness, an inability to relax, a sudden sense that the past has slipped out of reach. In therapy, it might show up as anxiety or dreams about drowning. In conversation, it shows up as silence when someone asks, "Where's your family from?" The answer used to be easy. Now it feels like it needs a disclaimer. Memory, meaning, and the fight for what's salvageable. Eventually, the mind searches for something to hold on to. People sift through the rubble, literally and emotionally. A kitchen cabinet door is saved. A strip of floral wallpaper is cut and framed. A story is repeated until it becomes sacred. These acts aren't trivial. They're psychological lifelines, proof that the home mattered, that its memory can survive without the physical house. But even these salvaging acts are fraught. Families argue over what to keep. One sibling wants the dining table, another says it's junk. What's emotionally priceless to one person is meaningless to another. These conflicts reflect the deeper issue. Each person's relationship to the house was different, shaped by their role in the family, their memories, their trauma. A condemned house becomes a site of contested narratives. Everyone wants to preserve a piece of the past, but no one can agree on what version of the past is worth saving. Moving forward with a scar. With time, people move on, but never cleanly. The mental process doesn't end with closure. There is no ceremony, no ritual for a condemned home. What remains is a scar, a tender spot in the psyche. Sometimes it's marked by a photograph, sometimes by the route you don't drive down anymore, sometimes by the way your voice tightens when someone mentions home. But even in that loss, there's adaptation. Families rebuild in new ways. A new gathering place is chosen. A new set of memories begins. Some people never look back. Others do, often. The condemned home becomes legend, eventually retold over wine or at holidays. It becomes mythologized, cleaned up, made bearable. And in that process, the mind does what it always does. It finds a way to live with the loss.